Hello there, everybody. Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 51. Now, by the time this podcast goes out, I will probably be back hard at work trying to put together the last few videos of my 13 days of Spooktober. I gotta admit, as I'm recording this, I almost thought of not recording a podcast because I'm really trying to work on little videos and putting stuff together, but I don't know. It's the kind of thing where I feel like the podcast, I'm just so used to doing it that I didn't want to cancel it. And I don't know. At the same time, even though I do want to get the Spooktober stuff out, it is supposed to be for fun, right? It's not like it's not supposed to be something to stress out about. So, I don't know. I just thought I would do this to kind of, take my mind off of things. So, here I am, recording the podcast. And yeah, let's just try to make it a good podcast. And like I said, hopefully by the time this podcast is out, maybe later that same night, I should have some of the Spooktober stuff debuting. So, that should be fun, I look forward to seeing what you guys, if you go to my channel, what you guys think about it. So, there you go. With that being said, I promised last week that I was going to watch some new anime, and sure enough, adding to the list, I have about, 4 different new anime series that started that I have something to say about them. So, yeah, if you're into anime, or if you're wondering about what anime are good this season, then stay tuned, because I talk about quite a few of them, alright? So first off on my list, the first anime that I watched that I believe it debuted this last Saturday, I want to say, or maybe not debuted, I guess you can say it returned, was My Hero Academia Season 4. And My Hero Academia has quickly become a favorite of mine. I just think it's really fun. I just think that, the characters and the fights, and I don't know, it's just a very entertaining show. I think it's very well put together. And so every season that comes out, I've always been excited to watch it. And sure enough, season 4, like I said, just premiered. And it was a pretty good episode. Not a lot happened, I'll admit. It was kind of a slow episode that kind of just helps you, dip back into the series and kind of goes over some stuff from some of the other seasons, that sort of thing. But it was still a fun episode. Basically picks up right where season 3 left off. It centers around this reporter that he says that he knows, or he thinks he has an idea about who the successor of All Might will be. And so he gets permission from his newspaper, I guess. He gets permission to go to the academy and to talk to the students in class 1A. And basically, it shows him taking pictures of everybody and kind of, everyone's doing their thing and they're getting ready to go back to school, that sort of thing. And meanwhile, it shows that he knows that it's Deku. He has an idea because, things just line up. And so it's just a nice episode that, like I said, it kind of just brings you back up to speed. It's kind of nice seeing how kind of gives you because usually in the series it follows heroes and villains and stuff. It doesn't really show how civilians react to anything. So kind of seeing how this guy who's a reporter, and he has a quirk, but still he's just a civilian, he's not a hero or anything. Seeing how civilians have, kind of responded to All Might retiring and, the who's going to take up the mantle and the villains, how they're growing stronger each day and stuff. Kind of seeing what the civilians think of all this. That was kind of an interesting look, And so yeah, it was just a nice episode, nothing happened, but I think it's a good way to, like I said, dip back into the series. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go from here, because I've talked to some people who have read the manga and I've seen just a couple things here and there. I've tried my best not to spoil myself, but from what I've seen, it looks like the series still has places to go. So I think that that's really exciting, So yeah, My Hero Academia started back up once again. I watched it over on Crunchyroll, which actually really surprised me because I thought that it wasn't going to be on Crunchyroll anymore. But yeah, I guess this is the last season that might be on Crunchyroll due to that partnership that Funimation and Crunchyroll had for, a short time going. But yeah, I caught it on Crunchyroll. I know it's also supposed to be on Funimation, so I think it should be easy to track down, hopefully. So if you're interested in watching it, hopefully, you don't have any trouble watching it. So there you go. Alrighty, moving on. Another anime that I watched that's new. I was hoping that I could watch at least 2 episodes, so I could talk about them with you guys. But due to how it comes out, it just didn't work out that way. Because it's a weird Netflix exclusive, and so trying to find it online is kind of tricky. But I did watch the first episode of it. And I am, of course, talking about Beastars. And for anyone who's been following the podcast, Beastars is an anime that I actually covered a few weeks back, because there was a story where I was just like, hey, look, guys, there's this anime coming out soon. It's about weird anthropomorphic animals. And I kind of, talked about the premise. And, I had said that I hope to watch it. And like I said, sure enough, I watched the first episode. And Beastars, don't really know what to think about it quite yet, because, only one episode came out and not too much happened. But from what I saw, it did seem pretty interesting. And I guess the best way to describe it is that it kind of seems, or at least it reminds me of Zootopia a little bit. Like Disney's animated film Zootopia. Because similar to Zootopia, where it's all about this world where like anthropomorphic animals, live almost as like humans. And, there's predators and prey, and the relations between the two of them is always like kind of, it's kind of rocky, and something happens like in the movie that causes it to be like even rockier or whatever. That kind of happens here, where we have a society, of animals, and same as in Zootopia, there's prey and there's predators, and, predators, they always kind of get looked down upon a little bit. People are always a little bit weary of them. Our main character, his name is Legoshi, I think was his name, Legoshi. And he's a wolf. And even though he has like a really menacing appearance, and he's like a big guy, really like, people are afraid of him, he's actually like really gentle, and he's like really kind and stuff. And so basically in the first episode, what happens is that we see, I want to say it was like I don't remember exactly what type of animal it was. I want to say it was like a deer. It gets attacked. Like it's one of the students at the school. And we see that this student, which like I said, I want to say it's a deer. I could be wrong. Don't remember too good. But some sort of like a prey, student, it gets attacked and, it gets killed. And we see that, there's like a crime scene and everyone's talking about it and everyone's wondering who could have done it, that sort of thing. After that, we kind of follow the student body and we're focusing on the drama club. And that's where we see that they're like putting on a play. We get introduced into Legoshi, and we see that, people are kind of wary of him. Some people are even wondering if he might have done it. We start following this student that she's like a rabbit. And none of the other rabbits like her, everyone hates her, and she's like unpopular, that sort of thing. And it kind of, the way where the episode ends, because most of it's kind of just showing characters, showing a little bit of their society, that sort of thing. Where the episode ends, it's really weird because it shows that the students are outside, and for whatever reason, Legoshi, he's like on one side of this like fountain, and the rabbit girl, she's like on the other side of it. And out of nowhere, it shows that he kind of like, he like runs to her and he like grabs her from behind, and his eyes are like glowing. And so I think since I've only seen one episode, I think that maybe they purposely did it as a fake out. Maybe you think that he's going to attack her, but he's not. Maybe he's actually protecting her for something. I'm not too sure. But it does look, like I said, it's going to be like kind of that Zootopia sort of thing, where it's going to be about, there's characters that are like, predators, there's characters that are prey. It's about like the relations between them. From what I read of the synopsis, it says that Legoshi, he's dealing with the fact that like everyone always looks down on him, and, a classmate got murdered, but it also says that he's gonna become more involved with his other peers. So that's what I'm saying. So maybe even though it looks like he's attacking like the bunny girl, maybe he's actually protecting her from something, and maybe there's gonna be like this mystery of like who the killer was, and I don't know. I really don't know. But like I said, the first episode was interesting. I do want to see more of this world because, it's like I said, it's kind of like the Zootopia world. It's kind of interesting to see these relations between animals, that sort of thing. And yeah, at the moment, I'm interested in it. I think the art style is very unique. They use like a lot of CGI, and for the intro, it's done with like, it looks like puppets, which is like really weird. So I don't know. It looks like they're definitely trying to use like different sort of like animation, like art styles and stuff. And I don't know, like I said, I've only seen one episode, but from what I've seen of it, it does seem pretty unique. It looks like it's trying to, go in an interesting direction. So for now, I guess I recommend it. Bad thing is that, like I said, it is kind of hard to track down, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted, and, I'll review it for like another 2 or 3 episodes, and I'll see if I think it's like worth watching, and I'll tell you guys. So there you go. Moving on, this next anime, I was able to watch at least the first 2 episodes of it, just due to how kind of like the timing and the scheduling or whatever worked out. And this is another one that I also talked about. I covered this story a while ago, and I am, of course, talking about No Guns Life. And this one, for anyone who might remember, if you're looking at the thumbnail, this is the anime where our protagonist, he looks like he's a gun. Like, his head is a gun. All right? And yeah, basically, it's this weird, like, sci-fi dystopian, I guess. I mean, it seems kind of dystopian universe where we have cyborg soldiers called the Extended. And basically, our main character, he's one of these Extended. And so he's like a cyborg guy with like a gun head, and his fists also kind of look like revolvers or whatever. And he's like this investigator, and it's just really bizarre, but it's really interesting, Like, I really love noir stories. I really love, stories of like detectives, tracking things down, and, they wear a trench coat and they're always smoking, and, the seedy underbelly of the city, that kind of thing. And that's kind of what this anime is so far, Like, our main character, he might be a gun, and he doesn't know who turned him into a gun, he doesn't have any memories or anything. But what he does know is that, he's working as a detective. He, like I said, he wears a trench coat, he smokes. And yeah, he lives in this society where there's all sorts of other cyborg people running around that he fights. And so yeah, in the first 2 episodes, basically, he's sitting in his office and he's thinking about he has like a window to fix or something. I don't really remember exactly how it starts. But yeah, this other Extended shows up at his office, and it's like this like kind of like Oni mask looking creature, and they have a kidnapped child with them. And they say, that they need him to like solve this case or whatever. And so, like solve the case and keep the kid safe, that sort of thing. And so our gun detective takes the case. And it's kind of interesting how we see that there's like this conspiracy where basically the kidnapped kid, it's someone who's been experimented on, and they can basically like transfer their consciousness onto other like robots or whatever. And I guess like this corporation wants him, and basically they say that he's like their property. And the kid's mom used to be like a researcher, like a CEO of that company. We don't really know what happened to her, but like the kid, he's been missing for like a year. And so, our gun detective, he's like protecting the kid, and he has like this kind of like sidekick lady. She's like this insane chick who like operates on people, and she kind of, seems to know about like cybernetics, and she knows how to like patch him up, our main character, and stuff. And so I don't know, I mean, from what I saw, interestingly enough, I guess you could say it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Alita Battle Angel. Because like in Alita, it's in the future, there's cyborg people, there's like all sorts of like crazy stuff going on, lots of crime and stuff. And that's kind of what this reminded me of. Because, there's cyborg people, there's crimes going on, and there's some sort of a conspiracy about this special person or whatever. So, after watching 2 episodes, I'm definitely interested. I think the style's really interesting. I'm interested to see where this weird story goes. I'm interested to see... I mean, he's a gun, right? So I'm interested to see what happens if, he shoots, I guess. I mean, does that kill him? Is that like... I don't know. Like, I just have a lot of questions about how this universe really works and that sort of thing. So far, I'm enjoying No Guns Life. I'd recommend it if you like mystery, kind of noir sort of like things, I think you might like it. If you can manage to find No Guns Life, I recommend it. I think it's a fun series so far. I'm intrigued. So there you go. Finally, the last anime that's new that I want to talk about. And I swear, it's funny how all of these actually, I hadn't noticed, all of these are actually ones that I covered in prior stories, and now I'm finally watching them. Like, that's kind of funny. I hadn't even noticed that before. But yes, the last one I want to talk about, that I did cover at some point in the past, is called Rifle is Beautiful. And I'll admit, out of these 4 new series that I started this week, this is probably the most disappointing one, because, like, I don't know, it's just not what I thought it was going to be. Basically, if you look at like the premise, and if you look at like the cover art and stuff, it looks like it's supposed to be this anime about how there's these girls and they want to join their school's rifle shooting club or whatever. And it says, because like the club isn't very popular, it's going to get shut down. So they're trying to put together like the 4 members so they can make it work, blah, blah, blah. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, heard this premise before, but cool, it's going to be about girls shooting rifles. Like, that'll be interesting. That's something I haven't really seen before. Unfortunately though, yeah, first of all, the rifles they shoot aren't actual rifles. Like, if you're expecting them to be shooting like actual like ammunition, no, they're actually like these like laser rifles. So that's kind of awkward, because it's like, oh, I did not expect that. But then again, I guess thinking about it, it makes sense because this is Japan we're talking about. Not everybody has a big fetish for guns the way the United States does. So while, like in the US, I guess, a rifle shooting club sounds like it would kind of make sense. It's like, this is Japan. Of course they're not going to have a rifle shooting club that's actual like ammunition and stuff. I mean, they barely like have guns over there as is. So it's kind of like, oh, I guess I should have seen that coming. So yeah, first of all, not real rifles. They shoot laser rifles. But then second of all, I guess the other part that kind of disappointed me is that whenever there's like a show about like a club or some sort of sport, I always like it because it's like, oh, cool, we're going to get to focus on like something that you don't see every day. And we're going to get to learn more about like this sport or activity. And like, I don't know, I always look forward to that. I always think it's really interesting. But unfortunately, right off the bat from this first episode, you can tell that it's not so much about the activity/sport. It's more about the girls hanging out, and like the sport/activity is kind of like an afterthought. Because, in this first episode, yes, it shows them putting the club together and it shows them shooting for a bit. But then it kind of talks more about them hanging out and having like a picnic and putting on shooting like outfits and stuff. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like, it's not bad, and I'm sure people will like it. It's one of those shows where it's about cute girls doing like cute things. I'm sure people will, there's probably people who will enjoy it. But personally, I was disappointed because I wanted a show about these girls, learning about like ammunition and different types of rifles. And I thought that would have been really interesting to get into that world. And like I said, unfortunately, it's not real guns. And you can tell that it's not really about like the sport/activity. It's more about them hanging out as a club, and like doing stuff like picnics and, just like hanging out with each other. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed, but then again, it was only 1 episode. So maybe it'll turn around. I don't know. If it doesn't, that's fine. I get it. It's my fault for kind of having expectations maybe I could have like looked into, I probably could have looked up the manga or something. But regardless, if you want to see cute girls doing cute things, then once again, the show is called Rifle is Beautiful. And I guess you can look it up and maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. So there you go. Alrighty, moving on to 2 shows that I talked about last week, but I kind of want to give an update. For these next shows, I've watched 3 episodes each, so I probably won't mention them for a while, At this point, I think anyone who's heard me talk about them, I feel like you should kind of know if you want to watch it or not. And then maybe like at the end, as I usually do, I'll bring it up again to give like a summary of how like the show did overall. But yeah, the first one I want to talk about really quick was Kemono Michi Rise Up. For anyone who's been following the podcast the last couple of weeks, that's the one about the wrestler that gets sent to another world. And in this other world, he dedicates himself to running a demon beast pet shop because he wants to fix the relationship between demon beasts and humans. And yeah, after these first 3 episodes, I've definitely enjoyed the show. I would definitely recommend it. I think it's just a lot of fun. I think seeing our main character just run around, punching people who call him a demon slayer or who want to hurt animals or whatever. I think it's still funny, I think it still holds up. And likewise, just seeing all the dumb shenanigans he gets into, with like trying to like save beasts or wear his costume around town and people call him a pervert and stuff. Like it just works, it is funny. I feel like there are some really good like gags and stuff there. Like just for instance, in the 3rd episode, like I said, he gets tasked with like bringing in a dragon, and some guy who doesn't know who he is yet, he's all proud and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take down the dragon, like you can help me, blah blah blah. And our main character just like kicks him out of a window or something because he doesn't like when they attack demon beasts. And it still made me laugh. I still kind of was expecting it, but still the way it plays out is just really funny. So he just kicks him out a window, and then when the guy drops his sword, our main character, his sidekick, she goes, ooh, someone someone else forgot their sword. And she just picks it up, and it's just implied. It shows that like whenever he like beats somebody up and they drop their weapons, she just like sells their weapons for them or whatever. So like, I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. And then there was like another joke where, like I said, he puts on his like wrestling gear to go fight like the dragon that's like attacking the town or whatever, and the dragon ends up being like a half human half dragon like little girl or whatever, and he's like, oh, like that was kind of unexpected. And he's like, trying to like talk to her and see like why she's causing trouble or whatever, and everyone thinks that he's like a pervert, like trying to like hit on a little girl, and so he's kind of trying to explain himself. And then for whatever reason, she starts following him, and so he puts her in disguise too. And like, it's hard to explain, but you'd have to watch it. But it just looks so stupid when he puts her in a disguise. And apparently people actually get tricked, which is like super stupid because they look almost the same. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it just has like all sorts of silly gags and stuff. But when you're actually watching it, I do think it works out. I just think like the comedy does like it pulls it off, So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think it's pretty funny. I think it's like definitely a good comedy. If anything that I've explained sounds interesting to you or funny, I think you'll enjoy it. And one other thing that I guess could kind of sell it, but it's actually by the same person that made Konosuba. So if you've enjoyed the Konosuba series, then I think that kind of gives you an idea of kind of like what the humor is in the show. And so that might convince you to be like, oh, okay, if it's made by the guy who made Konosuba, then I'll watch it or whatever. So yeah, there you go. Once again, it's called Kemono Michi, Rise Up. On the art cover, it has like this wrestler looking guy, he has kind of like sometimes he has a mask, sometimes he doesn't, but he has, like the boots and like the wrestling trunks. So yeah, I mean, if it sounds interesting, look it up. That I know of, I think it's on Funimation and Crunchyroll. I think it's on both. Don't quite remember. But yeah, if you want to look it up, I'd say, go for it. I think it's a pretty fun series so far, so check it out. Alright, finally, the last anime that I want to talk about, that like I said, this will probably be the last week I talk about it until, it reaches the end of the season, was Are You Really the Only One Who Likes Me? And that show, for anyone who's been following along, that's the one where the guy, supposedly he's trying to see if there's these girls that like him. They end up confessing that no, they like his best friend. We kind of see that our main character, he at that moment he gets pissed off and he breaks his facade, reveals that he's kind of a jerk underneath, and he's been acting like oblivious and kind of cutesy to try to impress the girls. And he's like, screw it, I'll help both of them. One of them, if they end up with my best friend, I'll take the other one. At the same time, there's this girl that's stalking him, and he doesn't like her because she's always really mean to him, and he thinks that oh, she's just this bookworm with glasses and blah blah blah, I don't like her, she's a nerd or whatever. And yeah, at the end of the second episode, she kind of got him stuck in a situation where it looks like he's gonna kind of lose his friends and all sorts of things. And in third episode, basically it was all about how she kind of manipulated situations so that yes, he gets in trouble with his friends, but in the end, his friends weren't really, you can kind of say, oh, I don't really want to spoil it, but his friends weren't really who he thought they were either. So she kind of trapped him to kind of bring one of them out of hiding so they can reveal that they're kind of a scumbag. And so he could kind of see the truth of it, if that makes sense. And so by the end of the third episode, it looks like he's kind of moved on from these two girls and from his best friend. It looks like that situation is out of the way. They're going to move past all that. And instead, it looks like, okay, the girl with the glasses, his stalker, she reveals that yeah, she did it, but she kind of did it because she cares about him, this and that. And she reveals that her true appearance when she takes off her glasses and stuff, it's actually this girl that he had met a year prior, and that he thought she was really pretty or whatever, and he was kind of falling for her, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of me or whatever. And he's kind of in a tough situation now, because even though he doesn't like her because of how she's manipulated him and tricked him and stuff, at the same time now she has kind of helped him, and it is the girl that he did kind of like back in the day. So it looks like he's kind of, a little kind of trying to figure out what he's going to do or whatever. And yeah, like I said, I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting how it kind of turns a lot of tropes on their head. I think the fact that, our character is kind of an asshole, but then he also kind of sees that the people around him aren't really great people either. I think that's kind of interesting because, rom-coms usually always go the same way. So seeing it kind of take twists and turns here and there, I thought that was interesting. And I don't know, I mean, the stalker girl, I mean, she's manipulative, but I think she's an interesting character. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, do I recommend it? Yeah, but I know it's not the type of show for everybody. So it's definitely that sort of thing where you'd have to watch it for yourself, or if anything that I've described sounds interesting, I would say check it out. But yeah, there you go. You know, I just think it's a very interesting show that I appreciate, that seems to kind of like mess with things that other rom-coms like play straight. But if it continues with that quality, remains to be seen. But for now, that was once again, Are You Really the Only One Who Likes Me? So, I don't know. I mean, check it out or not. I mean, it's up to you. So, there you go. Alrighty, moving away from anime and over into like the, I guess you could say, movies category. I watched a Netflix exclusive movie that I had been excited for a while, because it is kind of like a sequel, I guess you can say, or like a follow-up to one of my favorite, TV shows. And I am, of course, talking about El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. And I'm just gonna say it, I really love this movie. I think it was like really well done. I think the characters were like really interesting. I think the cinematography was really awesome. I think the story was really well put together. The way it brings back, like previous like story elements and characters. I thought that was really well done. I like the ending. I'm of course not going to spoil it, but I think the ending was good because all I'll say is that it was like bittersweet, So I feel like it was kind of realistic in that sense. So I really liked it. And I guess to take a step backwards. Basically, like I said, El Camino, it's called a Breaking Bad movie. For anyone who's never, watched Breaking Bad, I would definitely suggest it. I think it's one of those like, one of like the best shows, top shows of like the last like decade or whatever. Breaking Bad is a show about this guy. His name's Walter White. He's a chemistry teacher. When the show starts, he's like very geeky. Everybody looks down on him. His marriage, if I remember, it's not like going that great. His students don't pay attention to him. Just all sorts of stuff. I mean, he's basically a nobody is the point. And things get even worse for Walter White when he learns that he has cancer and that he's probably gonna die soon. And I don't know, I mean, when he sees like this, his brother-in-law is a DEA agent. And so when he kind of learns about how much money and stuff you can make selling drugs, he decides to use his background in chemistry to make meth. And his plan is that he will sell meth for like a short amount of time, make some money, use it to like help his family, once he dies, and that's it. That's his plan. He's like, I want to do this for my family. And sure enough, if you watch the show, it's incredible watching it because you see how this character who's like meek and like a nobody and like shy and like nerdy, you see how his transformation into this villain. Like he is the villain of the story, where he's just this ruthless like kingpin of drugs. And I'm not going to spoil what happens or anything, but it's just, the show goes places. It gets really dark. And basically, that's kind of why you have to watch the show in order to watch the El Camino follow-up, because it kind of shows what happens to the character named Jesse after the series ends. Because when the series ends, we kind of see Jesse, he's like in a certain situation. And so this kind of follows up about what's up with Jesse, what happens to him, where does he, go after Breaking Bad ends. And like I said, I just think that it was really good. I mean, it definitely is the kind of thing where you need to watch the series in order to understand anything that's happening here, in order to like really appreciate what happens in this movie. But I just really liked it. Like I said, I think like the characters are really good. The acting, I mean, Aaron Paul, like he's done such a good job as Jesse, excellent stuff. Cinematography is really good. Like, the guy who wrote and directed Breaking Bad, he's also in charge of this movie. And yeah, he always had like these really crazy shots and like really creative, stuff. And here, once again, he has like some really creative shots and just, I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard to like say without spoiling, but like, I guess all I can really say is there's a part where this cop finds somebody hiding in an apartment, and like the shot where it kind of zooms in to the cop seeing this guy hiding, like the way like the camera moves, I like just love it. It's just such a good shot. And like the movie's full of like just crazy stuff like that. And so yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Breaking Bad fan, I think you will love this movie. It's definitely like a love letter to fans. And obviously, like I said, I mean, if you haven't watched the show, it'll be really awkward if you just dive in. So I definitely recommend watching the show first. I mean, you can kind of maybe get an idea of it because they do kind of show like a little bit of a recap before the movie starts on Netflix. But if you want like the ultimate experience, definitely watch the show. And yeah, I like the movie. You know, it's kind of hard to talk about without really spoiling anything. But like I said, I love it. And oh man, just like some of the stuff near the end, the way they kind of bring back some characters, like some of those conversations, they're just so good. You know, like it's definitely, they kind of pull your heartstrings a little bit. So, you know, that's all I'm going to say. But if you're wondering, I recommend it. I say go watch it. Yeah. Finally, the last thing I did with my week that was pretty unexpected, honestly, is that I actually played quite a bit of Fortnite Chapter 2. You know, I've talked about it before, you know, I've played Fortnite here and there, unlike other people who are like, Fortnite, you know, and like, I wouldn't even touch it with like a 20-foot pole or whatever. I've always just like, you know, I mean, I'm not like a big fan of first-person shooters, and Fortnite isn't my thing where I like play it every day or whatever. But, you know, it's the kind of thing that, yeah, you know, every so often, you know, I would maybe jump on with like a friend or especially with cousins and stuff, you know, because it's a free-to-play game. So, I mean, if you can just, like, spend some time playing online with, like, a friend or, like, a family member, then, like, why not, you know? So I've played it here and there, and the first, not season, I guess, like, the first, I don't even know what you could call it at this point. I mean, I guess they're kind of chapters, so sure. The first, like, chapter of Fortnite wasn't really great, wasn't really bad. I just thought it was fine, you know? Like, it has some creative ideas, you know, definitely, but I don't know. I mean, I thought the shooting was kind of weird. I thought that the reliance on like having to build stuff, I mean, I was not really good at that. So for me, you know, the game was, you know, it was fine. However, since I heard that the game actually went offline and then it kind of like rebooted itself, which, you know, I was going to actually cover that, but I figured I would just kind of roll that story into my, you know, explanation of playing Fortnite. Basically, you know, in the game of Fortnite, for like every season or whatever, something will happen in the story that changes the map. And for the end of chapter 1, it showed that there was like this black hole that just like devoured like the whole map. And so if you try to play the game, you would just be met with like a black screen or whatever. And the game was down for like 2 days and people were wondering what was up, you know, and some people were even freaking out if like the game was gone forever. But no, you know, like 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, the game returned. And yeah, sure enough, you know, it's calling itself Fortnite Chapter 2. And basically it's just had like a whole overhaul where like the map's different, some of the gameplay's different, there's like a new like way to like level up, and like the user interface is different, like all sorts of different changes, right? It's like they really actually listen to people's complaints and try to like, you know, kind of like reboot the game, you know, using some of these fixes or whatever. And like I said, you know, since I thought this was kind of interesting, I jumped on with a friend of mine who wanted to play. And yeah, we were playing for a while, and you know, I even played by myself a couple of times, and I definitely, you know, I was impressed. I think that they really did make some really good improvements. Like, you know, one of the things I was talking about, I thought in the past the shooting was kind of crappy. Like, I don't really know how to describe it, but like every time I would try to shoot somebody, I swear like the shooting just felt really slippery, is I guess the best way you can say it. Like, you know, like if you're trying to aim at somebody, I just feel like the reticle would be kind of like all over the place, and I felt like it was just really hard to like hit people, to like really focus on people. And I don't know, I feel like they really fixed it, because I thought the shooting was like way easier this time around. Like, I feel like it felt much more accurate. And, you know, another thing that I liked, yeah, the leveling up seems like they kind of gave it a whole overhaul. So there's like easier ways to like level up. There's like more rewards, that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that's kind of hard to explain if you haven't played the game before. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I mean, for sure, it looks like they definitely took a lot of criticism to heart. And it looks like they really did, you know, reboot the series, if you want to say that, with like a lot of improvements. And so, yeah, you know, like I said, I wasn't expecting to play Fortnite. You know, it's not really my game, but I thought I would give it a chance, and I was impressed, you know? Will it be something that I'm going to be playing daily from now on? Probably not, you know? But it looks like it's something I might give more of a chance to, because, I don't know, you know, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it before, so there you go. And, oh yeah, I actually posted it to my Twitter, but I actually managed to win one. I actually got a victory royale. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I've hit my peak, you know? It all goes downhill from here, because, yeah, I beat Fortnite too, so I don't know. What else is there to say, you know? Alrighty guys, and with that being said, that brings me to the end of my week. As I had said before, lots of anime to cover. I think I have covered most of them at this point. There might just be maybe one or two more to cover, somewhere in the future, that's starting near the end of the month. But yeah, hopefully, good insight into anime this season. And yeah, hopefully next week, something that I did want to play but didn't get a chance to was Indivisible. I've been waiting for that game for a while, and I do have my copy, so I am excited to play that and maybe talk about it next week. But yeah, besides that, next week should be a little more calm because there shouldn't be this big overhaul of thousands of anime I'm talking about. So, there you go. But with that being said, I think it's time to transfer over to the news. And yeah, my first news story, actually, let me quick. I'm gonna cross this out really quick because like I said, I've been planning to talk about Fortnite, but I think I'm gonna cross that one out. So my first news story now is that, as the title of the article states, Riot Games offers first glimpse of League of Legends Fighter. So I'll admit, I'm not too familiar with League of Legends. I know it's a really big MOBA, and I do know it's really popular, especially in, I know a lot of Asian countries and stuff. I've never honestly played it because I'm not much of a computer, game person. But yeah, from what I've heard, this has been kind of talked about for a while. It seems like the studio behind League of Legends, Riot Games, it seems like for a while now, they've been talking about wanting to expand to other ideas and stuff. And, I think I had heard they're trying to work an animated series. I think they're trying to work on some sort of, actually, yeah, I don't think people know what some of the other projects are yet because they're not really announced. There was just some footage and rumors about it. But the one that they talked about quite a bit, in order to celebrate their upcoming 10th anniversary or whatever, is that, yeah, they're making a fighting game, which right now it's titled Project L. And don't really know what to say since, like I said, I don't really know too much about League of Legends. But yeah, the little bit of footage that they show, it's a few seconds. I mean, it looks cool, I guess. I mean, it's definitely in the art style of League of Legends. I know at least that much. And I don't know, besides that, I mean, even though I'm not a fan of the series, I guess it's just kind of cool knowing that the studio is looking to do more, Because, yeah, there's studios like Valve, for instance, that they haven't made a new game in, forever. They made Portal, they made Half-Life, they made, a few games like that, and then they just stop making games. Because they just make so much money off of, Steam and stuff, right? And it's that's kind of lame, because it's we'd like to get more games, please, and, no, they're making so much money they don't care. So seeing that Riot Games isn't taking the same approach and that they are looking to make new stuff and keep their company growing or whatever, I do think that's kind of cool, And so like I said, I mean, I don't know too much about League of Legends, but if any of you in the comments, if any of you listening do know about League of Legends or any of that stuff, are you excited for some of these other things that are rumored, that supposedly the company's working on, like I said, an animated series, and let me know, so there you go. Moving on, and this next one's an interesting one. I mean, it's not much of a story, but I just think it's kind of a cute little crossover. As the title of the article states, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD adds playable Sonic the Hedgehog. So yeah, I just think that's kind of fun. I mean, since they're both Sega, I think being able to play as Sonic, and I think it's cool. It's classic Sonic, so it's the little chubby guy. So I think being able to play as classic Sonic in Super Monkey Ball, I think that's fun. They've also said that there's going to be new costumes, so that sounds really good. And I don't know. I mean, I guess the reason I want to talk about the story, not only because I think it's fun to see, old Sonic get a push and have a little cameo, as a playable character in the game. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just really happy to see these Sega games, emerging again. This isn't the first time I talk about it. I've made videos and stuff about it. But yeah, there's just so many great series that Sega has, like Space Channel 5, Monkey Ball, Crazy Taxi, Panzer Dragoon, Jet Set Radio. They just have so many good series that they haven't really paid attention to in a long time. And so just hearing that they're bringing some of these series back, even if this one is just a HD port or whatever, remake, whatever you want to call it, even though it's just an HD, re-release or whatever, just seeing that they're giving this much attention to it, where there's costumes and they're making Sonic a playable character and that sort of thing, it just makes me really happy. you know? And so I don't know, I just want to share that because I definitely want to check out the game when it comes out. I've always been like a fan of Super Monkey Ball, like not like where I've played every single game, but I just think it's a fun little series. And I just think it's fun, you know, that they're going to bring Sonic into it. So I don't know, I just thought I'd share that, you know. If you're also excited for the game, then look forward to it. Sonic's going to be a playable character in it. I think that's pretty fun. And yeah, you know, if you're excited, then, you know, there you go. Alright, speaking of little crossovers or whatever, my last video game news story, it's a really short one, there's not really much to it, but I just thought it was really cute, and that is that, as the title of the article states, KK Slider makes a surprise appearance at latest Splatoon 2 concert. So, I don't know how many of you know it, but over in Japan, I mean, they're really big on those, like, hologram, like, 3D concerts. You know, like, they have the ones for Hatsune Miku, they have the ones for, like, Splatoon, that sort of thing. And basically, I mean, they seem fun. Like, I would definitely like to go to one if I ever have the chance. But it's supposed to be, like, these concerts where, like, yeah, I mean, like, they put, like, these, like, hologram sort of things. So, that, like, the characters from, like, you know, like, the game or, like, the series or whatever, they're, like, performing for you, like on the stage or whatever, and it looks like semi-realistic, I guess. And yeah, sure enough, you know, Splatoon and Splatoon 2, you know, for each game, they've had like multiple concerts or whatever. And I guess, you know, for the latest one, for Splatoon 2, KK Slider from Animal Crossing, he made an appearance. And I think that's really fun. For anyone who's never played Animal Crossing, I think KK Slider is like an awesome character. He's this little white dog with huge eyebrows that plays like a little acoustic guitar. And basically in every Animal Crossing game, like it's really fun trying to find him because he does performances on Saturday nights. And, you know, in some games, it's in front of the train station. Like in the newest game, he performs like in the basement of like some club or whatever. So, you know, it's just one of those fun things where like every Saturday, as you're playing the game, you can go talk to him and, you know, he'll perform a song for you. And yeah, KK Slider's just a really cool guy. Love his little songs. They're always like really entertaining. And like his whole personality in the game's really fun where, you know, he always gives away his music for free. He's always really chill. He's really friendly, that sort of thing. He's like a traveling artist or whatever, you know. I like that personality trope or whatever. And yeah, apparently it says that he performed at the Splatoon 2 concert. And yeah, it says that he played the main theme of the upcoming Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is the new Animal Crossing game that's supposed to come out next March. And it says that he also played a song from, like, you know, one of the Splatoon games or whatever. And so, yeah, I just think that that's really fun. You know, like, not only do these concerts sound fun, where, like I said, you go and you see, like, these, like, holograms and whatever, you know, put on a show. But the fact that KK Slider was there, like, man, I would love to go to, like, a little KK Slider concert. You know, just watching the little guy play his guitar and, you know, sing to you in his, like, weird little Animal Crossing language or whatever. Like, I think that'd be really fun. So I just thought that was a really fun story to share. I don't know how many of you are, like, you know, Animal Crossing fans or whatever, but I don't know. I just thought it was fun. Just wanted to share that, so there you go. Alrighty, speaking of animals and living together with them in a society and whatnot, my first movie news story, I don't know, like, I want to say I'd heard about this, but then I don't know. I mean, it might have been one of those things that maybe I heard about it as, like, a rumor at some point, but then I guess I kind of put it out of my mind or whatever. But yeah, as the title of the article states, Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Dolittle movie gets name change and poster. Which, that's what I'm saying. Like, I kind of want to say that I had heard at some point that Robert Downey Jr.'s next role was going to be Dr. Dolittle. But then at the same time, I kind of think about it, and I don't really remember ever learning that fact, you know? Like, it's one of those things where I could have sworn I was always like, I wonder what he'll play after, you know, Iron Man. Will he go back and, like, do Sherlock Holmes 3, you know? Like, it's one of those things where, like, I feel like I've heard it, but then, like, did I hear it? Or, like, I don't know. It's just a weird one. But regardless, though, yeah, apparently Robert Downey Jr.'s next role, now that he's done with the MCU, he's supposed to play Dr. Dolittle. And originally the movie was called The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, but now, you know, they shortened it. It's just called Dolittle. And yeah, I mean, that's cool, I guess. From what I know, apparently, like the Dr. Dolittle's movies that people are probably more familiar with are the ones starring Eddie Murphy. And I think, you know, they were the kind of movies that, from what I've heard, they don't really follow the source material that, like, closely. Because from what I'm looking at right here, the Dr. Dolittle franchise. I don't know what you would really call it, but it's based on a 1920s book called The Story of Dr. Dolittle. And apparently, it's like a series of books or whatever. And yeah, from what I remember, like having heard or read or whatever, yeah, the Eddie Murphy versions, they don't really follow the books. Like the only thing that they follow is that there's this man and he can talk to animals and like that's it. And from what I think I've read here, it seems like what they're kind of saying is that Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Dolittle movies, they're supposed to follow the books like a little bit closer. I could have sworn I read that somewhere around here. Not really seeing it, but it might have been like maybe, like I said, maybe it was in an article I read before. That's why it's weird. But yeah, from what I see, it says that, yeah, he's supposed to be playing Dr. Dolittle. Maybe or maybe not. They're supposed to be closer to the books. I could have sworn I read that somewhere. And yeah, it has a poster. Basically, it just says he's not a people person. And it's just Robert Downey Jr. surrounded by all sorts of smiling animals. And yeah, I don't know. Will it be good? I don't know. It's kind of weird because Robert Downey Jr. hasn't really done like anything outside of like the MCU in quite a while. Like, seriously, I think since he started as Iron Man, I think he's only made, like 2 Sherlock Holmes movies, Due Date, which was that comedy with Zach Galifianakis, and that, like, drama, The Judge. Like, I want to say those are, like, the only movies he's made outside of the MCU. And he started playing Iron Man, like, 2008, was it? So I want to say, like, in the last, like, decade, he's only done, like, 4 movies that weren't MCU related, I want to say. So yeah, it just sounds really weird hearing him dive back into something else. And especially something like Dr. Dolittle, like, I don't know, man. Like, I could easily see it being kind of like, because sometimes, like, these comedies where, like talking animals and stuff, I don't know. There's a few of them that they're kind of dumb, honestly. They don't work out too well. And also, like, if you read the article, it says that the film is set to hit theaters January 17th, 2020, which, like, that's not really a good sign, because usually all of, like, the worst movies come out in January. Like, I feel like it's kind of like a cursed release date. So, I don't know. At the moment, it sounds kind of iffy. Like I said, the fact that he's playing, something outside of the MCU, which he hasn't really done in a while, like, that's strike 1. Strike 2, talking animal movie, sounds kind of iffy. And then number 3, the fact that it's a January release. So, I don't know. At the moment, it has quite a few things going against it, I would say. But, I don't know. Maybe they'll do it right. Maybe it'll be funny. Only time will tell, So, let's keep an eye out for it, I guess. Moving on to my second movie news story. This one is one that I'll admit I am very, mixed on. Because, I guess I'll give my opinion in a moment, right? I guess what I'm talking about, as the title of the article states, John Krasinski to direct and star a new comedy movie with Ryan Reynolds. So, for those of you who might not recognize, the name or whatever, John Krasinski, he's the guy who came out in The Office. He played Jim Halpert. I think that's how you say his name, Halpert, whatever. But he played Jim in The Office, and then, he became, pretty popular last year because he directed the horror film A Quiet Place, which is the one where he came out with Emily Blunt. And basically it was about this family and they live in this world where you can't make any noise, or these creatures kill you basically. And so it's this movie that's basically really silent. Everyone on screen is trying to be as silent as possible. And it made waves because of its unique, interesting take on horror, and how it did something really different. And basically, it says that after he finishes A Quiet Place Part 2, he is apparently lined up to direct, it's called Imaginary Friends. And it says, and this is kind of where it ties into my last story. It's kind of funny how sometimes all these stories kind of go together without meaning to. But it says right here, the movie is described as a Dr. Dolittle-like tale of a man who has the ability to see and hear other people's imaginary friends and is charged with stopping these imaginary entities who become abandoned and turn to the dark side. So I guess the reason I just feel really mixed about this is that premise as a horror movie, knowing that John Krasinski, he's a good, he made a pretty good horror movie. As a horror movie, I think that sounds really good. Think about it. a horror movie about this guy who can like talk to like imaginary friends that are like trying to like, it says right there, turn on the dark side and cause all sorts of like stuff. I think that would be interesting. And I think that would be unique. It sounds like you can do some creepy stuff with it, you know, about like this horror movie about this guy. He can see imaginary friends and he's trying to stop them or whatever. Like, I think that sounds interesting as a horror movie. But as a comedy though, I don't know. I mean, it just sounds kind of cheesy, I guess. And like, I like Ryan Reynolds, don't get me wrong. I think he did like really great as like Detective Pikachu. I think he does really good as like Deadpool. I know there's supposed to be a movie that he's supposed to be working on where he plays like basically like an NPC who finds out that he's like in a video game. Like that sounds interesting. But I don't know, like putting Ryan Reynolds into like every comedy movie, that sounds kind of gimmicky. And then I don't know, I mean, the premise, trying to turn that into a comedy sounds kind of weird. It's kind of like the Dr. Dolittle thing. I can see it being like a little too cheesy and kind of like silly, you know, like I could see many places where it would go wrong. So yeah, you know, I'm mixed on it. I think if John Krasinski, if I heard that he was making a horror movie about imaginary friends, I would probably be on board. Because I think that's like a unique, you know, interesting idea. But when I hear it's like a comedy movie about imaginary friends, that's where it kind of loses me. That's where I'm kind of like, sounds kind of weird, sounds kind of cheesy. Putting Ryan Reynolds in it sounds kind of gimmicky. Like they're just like, you know, how many movies can we stuff him into or whatever? So I don't know. It sounds weird. I mean, hopefully it's good. At least, like I said, it is kind of, I mean, it sounds like it's kind of unique at least. You know, at least you can't say the movies are out of ideas. I mean, they are trying, it seems like it's trying something kind of new or whatever. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Will it be a good movie? Will it be a terrible movie? Only time will tell. But yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for this one. I want to see if like what direction it goes, you know? So there you go. Alrighty, moving over to TV news. When I saw this one, I actually got kind of excited because even though I'm not like super familiar with the property, I do think it sounds like I think it could work well. It sounds like a fun idea. Basically, as the title of the article states, Netflix to adapt Jeff Smith's Bone for a whimsical animated series. Now, like I said, I'm not like a huge fan. It's not like I've read every single one of the Bone comics. But yes, there's this really fun little like comic series called Bone. And it's about like these little characters. They look kind of like white little ghosts. And, you know, I think it revolves around, I don't remember if they're brothers or cousins, but I know there's like 3 different like little ghost guys and they each have like a different personality. And like the main one, I think his name is Phone Bone, like Fonebone. And he's like the little like, you know, he's like the main character. And basically it's just like this little series about these little guys and their adventures. And I don't know, it's just from what I've read, you know, it's a fun little series, you know, and apparently, you know, as it says right here, Netflix is making an animated series about it. And yeah, that's just one of those things that I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Because I feel like the Bone comic book and like the art style and stuff, it definitely lends itself to like a little animated series. And it's actually one of those things that I'm kind of surprised hasn't been done yet, you know, because I know like the comic book series is really popular. And so, I don't know, when I heard about this, made sense to me. Does Netflix have like a spotless, you know, track record? No, but it still has, I would say, a pretty good track record. You know, like it made Series of Unfortunate Events. I thought that was a pretty good adaptation. The first season of 13 Reasons Why. I know a lot of people are mixed about it, but as a reader of the book, I would still, you know, kind of, you know, say that I enjoyed it. You know, I still think the first season was, I would say, pretty good. I'm trying to think of other things they've made. The Dark Crystal, the new, like, puppet series. It's called Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. I thought that was really well done. You know, you can definitely tell that there was, like, some time and effort put into that. So, yeah, when it comes to, like, adaptations and stuff, I do think that, you know, even if their track record isn't perfect, I do think Netflix has made some good stuff before. So, hearing that they're going to make this Bone animated series, I think that sounds great, and I look forward to it. And not only that, but like I said, as like kind of like a minor fan who's read some comics here and there, if they're gonna adapt the comics into like stories in the series, that gets me excited because that can get me caught up, with the lore or whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, when I saw this new story, it made me happy. That was one of those things where I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Surprised they haven't done it sooner. So I don't know how many of you might be fans of the Bone comic book series or whatever. I mean, I keep calling it comic book. Maybe it's technically like a graphic novel. I don't know. But regardless, keep an eye out for it. Get excited. Hopefully the animated series goes well. Alrighty, moving on to my last news story, which is an anime news story. I wanted to cover it because it basically has to do with the Oscars. And I feel like I have talked about the Oscars before, where even if they're not, like that big of a deal, I guess, like I feel like, even if your movie like doesn't get nominated or gets like, ignored or whatever, I mean, it's fine, it's not like the Oscars are like the end all be all. I feel like, it's not like they run movies or they're like, like if your movie gets ignored by the Oscars, that means your movie's not worthy or whatever. At the end of the day, it's just an awards show. And like all awards shows, there's stuff they're going to cover, there's stuff they're not going to cover. And sometimes, there is some politics to it and, whatever. But I think as long as you don't take the Oscars too serious, I think it's kind of a fun event, just kind of depends how you look at it. But regardless, I still wanted to share this because even though it's not like a huge deal, I do still kind of think it's kind of nice for these movies to get, some acknowledgement. And basically, as the title of the article states, 4 anime films submitted for animated feature Oscar. So basically, as it says right here, the following anime films are submitted for consideration. So there's Children of the Sea, Oko's Inn, Promare, and Weathering with You. And I have not seen any of these yet, though I do hope to see Promare, Weathering with You. I hope to see those soon. Oko's Inn, I actually found somewhere online to watch that the other day. I'm gonna try to check that one out. And Children of the Sea I had never actually heard of, so I'm gonna have to look into that. But regardless, as I was saying, I just think that that's cool because, I feel like the animated feature Oscar, I feel like it's always kind of a mess, like while there's movies that definitely deserve it, that get nominated, like usually there's like a Disney movie, there's a Pixar movie, that sort of thing. I feel like it's always the kind of thing where like you can really tell that the people who vote for these, they just like throw in whatever they watched like the last weekend with their kid or whatever. Like I know last year, for instance, one of the films in the running was Boss Baby, which like, don't get me wrong, I thought Boss Baby was like, it had its moments, it was funny, but saying that Boss Baby is worthy of an Oscar, like that's really silly. And I think that's kind of, insulting when there's like much better movies out there. And so like I said, even though it's not like a big deal, it's like whatever, if it doesn't get nominated, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy a movie or that like other people won't recognize it. But still, I guess just seeing that there's 4 anime films for consideration, that makes me happy because I don't know, I'm just hoping that things kind of change a little more, where movies that maybe deserve a little more recognition, maybe seeing that they get more recognition and they get considered, that would be nice, And if we can move away from the, people voting for like the film that's animated that they saw with their kid, regardless of quality, if we can maybe move it towards more of like movies that might actually deserve it, that might be nice. But I don't know. I guess that's one of those things where like, does it really matter at the end of the day? Not really, because, you can watch whatever and enjoy it, and whether or not it gets attention, I guess it doesn't matter. And will they nominate dumb movies for the Oscars? They probably still will. I mean, in the same article, if you read it, it says that they're considering the Angry Birds movie 2, Secret Life of Pets 2, where was it when I just saw, where is it? It's one that I was just like surprised was on here. Where is it? Frozen 2, which hasn't even come out yet. The Addams Family, which hasn't even come out yet. Like the art style is kind of ugly. Like, some of those being on here just is kind of like, really? But I don't know. I guess that's one of those things where at the end of the day, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but still, maybe just seeing that, focus is shifting a little bit to where people are appreciating anime films more. Like, I guess that's what, kind of is the big deal for me. So I guess just seeing that, that's kind of what, I wanted to share. So yeah, there you go. Like I said, maybe I'm the only one who cares, but I still wanted to share it. So alrighty, folks. So with that being said, that brings me to the end of another news week. As usual, hopefully, you guys had a good time with that. Hopefully there was something you guys found to be educational, informative, interesting, that sort of thing. And yeah, hopefully, there's something that was worth it that you guys will go and read on your own or whatever. So there you go. With that being said, I think we should transfer over to the last segment of the podcast. And that is, of course, the content creator spotlight. And this content creator, as I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and as I said I would do for like the month of October, this is a channel that even though it's a bigger channel, and it doesn't really need my help or anything, I want to cover this channel because I think that they kind of fit into the like Spooktober element, because there's like maybe like one or more things that they cover that I think kind of, goes with the theme. And so for this week, my content creator spotlight, the channel that I'm talking about is called SomeOrdinaryGamers. And SomeOrdinaryGamers, I've been following them for a while now. Like, I wish I knew how long I've been following them. I want to say it's been like at least like 6 years, maybe? Like, oh man, yeah, I want to say it's like at least 6 years, but it's probably more. And my SomeOrdinaryGamers, despite what it sounds like, you think it's gonna be like a big like LP channel or whatever, but it's not. It's this channel run by a guy named Mudahar, and he's, like this Indian guy, it's very obviously Indian. He himself makes jokes about being tech support, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's this guy named Mudahar from Canada, and his channel, it's interesting because he does so much, and over time, it's just really evolved. His channel, like originally, I really got into his channel because he used to read all sorts of gaming creepypastas. So originally, I got into his channel because of that. But then, he not only has he like along the way, he's done like gaming creepypastas. He's done like a few like little playthroughs of like indie horror games. He's looked at like gaming like mysteries, like glitches and like, I guess you could say like creepy stuff that's like creepy Easter eggs in games. There's that stuff. I don't know. I mean, like, I guess that's what I explained it. Yeah, a lot of his older stuff was more about like gaming and about like creepy stuff having to do with gaming. But then as like the years have gone by, he's kind of moved away from that. And recently, I guess he features more of like kind of like in real life, like creepy stuff. Like something that he does every week. Usually every like Sunday is that he browses the deep web, and it's really interesting because anywhere you go on YouTube or like anywhere they talk about the deep web or like the dark web, whatever, they always try to make you like sound like it's like this dangerous place, and like the moment you dive into the deep web, anyone who does, they get like murdered and they end up in a red room, and Satanists are gonna like eat your heart and like live stream it for everybody, as just for touching the deep web. And I mean, he's up to episode like 216, and he shows that no, even though there is like creepy stuff on the dark web / deep web, even though there are like creepy websites and like weird, forums and all sorts of like crazy stuff out there, I like that he shows that no, I mean, it's basically the same as like the regular internet. There's funny stuff out there. There's stupid stuff out there. There's lighthearted stuff out there. And he really like informs you and teaches you like what the dark / deep web is really about. So like, I think that's really cool. Like I said, that doesn't mean that he doesn't run into creepy stuff, though. I mean, he has shown some creepy forums and like some, scary videos that he runs on. He finds along the way, part of like the segment of like each of the dark web browsing each week. Usually he has like a video that he shows, and a lot of them, yeah, they're like really unsettling, and they're part of like creepy ARGs, or they're like weird videos from like other countries that you don't know like what's happening, that sort of thing. So that's why it kind of fits into like the Spooktober theme. But like I said, at the same time, I do appreciate that he's very real about it. And he goes, no, the dark web isn't some place that if you touch it, you'll get murdered by a hitman. It's just a different way of using the internet. And, you know, there's dark stuff, but there's like funny stuff and lighthearted stuff too. So I think that's interesting. And finally, the last thing that he does that I think is like really interesting, and it kind of skirts the line of like horror, I guess, is that he covers like a lot of like real life stories from around YouTube and like the gaming industry. And some of my favorites that he's covered is that sometimes there is some really weird stuff on YouTube. Like back when the whole Elsa Gate thing was like a thing, which is basically all of like the creepy Elsa and Spider-Man videos like on the kids' YouTube app, and like all of the creepy, you know, like videos that they look like they're for kids but they're not. Like, he covered a lot of that like back in the day, and whenever it pops up, he still covers it. And so I think that's really interesting that he's willing to cover like these real life like creepy things on YouTube, you know, like whether it's like weird videos that are on like the YouTube app for kids that shouldn't be there, or it's, you know, companies doing stuff they shouldn't, or it's, like I said, you know, him talking about, I don't know, just like hacking and like that sort of thing and viruses and stuff. He talks about like real life, like weird stuff, you know? And so, yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling a bit, but it's just that, like I said, you know, Some Ordinary Gamers, his channel just has a lot, and I just feel like he's always, like, ever evolving. But if you check out his channel, I think you'll like it. I think there's a little bit for everyone. Whether you like, you know, like his older creepypastas, whether you like seeing him do, like, little LPs of, like, older, like, you know, flash games or like indie games or whatever, whether you like watching him, you know, browse the deep web, whether you like seeing his stories about like real life weird stuff on YouTube and like within gaming companies, that sort of thing. Like, he covers all sorts of stuff, really good content. He's always like a really honest guy, you know, you can tell like he's always really real, where, you know, he always says, you know, like, I'm on YouTube, but, you know, he always says, you know, like, I have another job, I do this as a hobby. You know, I'm not like looking for clickbait and stuff. I'm trying to make it like as real as possible. And so, I don't know. He's just one of those YouTubers that I've always appreciated. And I've been following him for years. So, you know, check his channel out. Like I said, his channel is Some Ordinary Gamers. You know, guy's name is Mudahar. He's an awesome guy. Love his channel. If you happen to follow him, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I don't know if he'll notice, but if you do, tell him that Wannabe Reviewer sent you. And there you go. Alrighty, guys, and with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. That is one more in the bag. Something that I forgot to mention, I probably should have mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, but hopefully the podcast doesn't sound too weird this week. The reason I say that is that I'm so used to recording like in a certain area, and I feel like if I move stuff around or if I go to a different area, like, I swear it doesn't record the same. Like, something about, like, the echo or, like, the distance to the microphone, that sort of thing. It can really make the audio sound different. So, if the audio sounds different, that would be why. It's because I've been, I don't know. I mean, with all this Spooktober stuff I've been recording, you know, stuff's kind of all over the place. And, you know, it's kind of thrown off my groove or whatever. And so, hopefully, audio doesn't sound too different, since my setup is a little bit different today. But that aside, hopefully the podcast, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully there was something that, you know, you guys found interesting or entertaining. Whether it was me talking about Mudahar, you know, Some Ordinary Gamers. Whether it was me covering one of the many news stories. Whether it was me, you know, discussing the anime I watched, or the Breaking Bad movie, or talking about Fortnite of all things. Hopefully there was something that you guys felt, you know, made this episode worth it, you know, worth listening to you guys. And yeah, with that being said, to wrap up, my name is Wannabe Reviewer. You can catch me on all sorts of social medias, such as Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Besides that, you know, as I've been saying, I've been working hard on some Spooktober content, doing my best to make up content for like 13 days, so fingers crossed I get those last few videos done. And yeah, with that being said, guys, my name is Wannabe Reviewer. I will try my hardest to be back here for episode 52 next week. And, you know, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. My name is Wannabe Reviewer. I'll see you guys next time.